This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is economic growth rate in the latter half of 2021 is about 2% due to Bidenomics. Since advanced 2021 Q3 GDP was released this week, we will compare it with the CQM and PCA forecasts. This week's forecast has updated the actual September figures of almost all economic indicators. Since advanced GDP is calculated from the expenditure side, the advanced GDP tends to be close to the CQM forecast on the expenditure side. We can see that economy has been slowing down since mid-August. Real gross domestic output, as a better measure of economic growth, will be lower than the advanced economic growth. CQM has already updated the CPI, PPI, and import-export prices in September in the final forecast. So the inflation forecast is usually accurate, but this time CQM forecasted inflation by 1% to 2% higher than official figures. But Biden inflation is sure. The PCA forecasted real GDP growth about 0.5% lower and GDP price deflator growth 0.6% higher than their advanced figures. This is the economic growth rate in 2021 Q4 forecasted by this week's CQM. No actual figures for October economic indicators have been updated yet, but they are showing the economic growth rate of around 2%. The PCA forecast an economic growth rate of 2.68% in 2021 Q4, which is somewhat higher than the CQM forecast, but it can be considered to be almost the same as the CQM forecast. At the beginning of this year, most economists, including Philadelphia Fed, predicted that this year the economic growth would exceed 6%. It has exactly what Biden said, help is here and hope is on the way. However, when the true nature of Bidenomics came out, it became wasted here and no hope is on the way. Economic growth is projected to be around 2% in the latter half of this year. Conclusion from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. First, the economic recovery of more than 6% growth expected by many economists, including the Philadelphia Fed, at the beginning of this year has become just a dream. Second, economic growth in the latter half of this year will slow down to about 2% due to the Bidenomics of work discouraging and social welfare policies. The third, after all, help is here and hope is on the way touted by President Biden has turned out to be wasted here as no hope is on the way. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast, the original developer of CQM, and CQM theory papers.